Amy Baglan, thank you for taking the time with us today. You're the CEO and founder of MeetMindful. We've been talking, when did we first meet? I think it was about 3 years ago.
2013, I think. It's coming
Gotcha.
on 4.
And you had an idea for an interesting community and it's blossomed quite nicely. What's your founding story though? What inspired you to start MeetMindful?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me here, Mark. The shorter version of the founding story, I was living in New York and I was working at a startup that I helped launch, and it was going really well, and had this feeling that it wasn't my calling. It wasn't feeding my soul, and I knew that I needed to be doing something that was really aligned with my values and what was important to me in the world. And so I ended up taking a trip around the world, traveling and studying with a lot of different teachers in meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, mindfulness. And everywhere I went, there was an amazing community of people coming together who all had something similar that they shared. And what I found, it was some thread of mindfulness or mindful living. And so when I got to Denver 5 years ago, I really wanted to bring together people in an intentional way that was really authentic. And I started with an events company called Yoga Dates, which is what I was doing when we met. And it was fun. We were doing yoga events like yoga speed dating and vinyasa and vino, and it was fun and cute. And at the same time, it was a terrible business model. I was selling out at 40 tickets each event, and that didn't make a lot of money, but I did learn a lot, and I learned how tough it was for people in this demographic to find like-minded people. And it's not like you wear like a flag, or you can't, like, you don't wear it on your sleeve that says, I meditate, or I'm really into health and fitness and wellness and personal growth. And so they were having a really hard time, and so was I when I was single, when I first moved here as well. And so that was the first kind of clue that there really needed to be something in the marketplace that was serving this demographic. And it was less just the spiritual crowd, but people who valued their health and fitness, people who were into personal growth, and always striving to be a better, more optimized them. And so I looked at the market numbers for how big this demographic is, and I looked at what was going on in the singles and just online networking space for this demo, and it was clear that there was an opportunity. So that's how this all started, and I went after it.
Well, congratulations on your growth so far. And I understand last year you won a Techstars 3-month training program in Boulder. How did that go? Was it last year?
Oh yeah, it was last year. It
Okay.
was this last week last year. So we're in Denver, which is just 20 or 30 minutes from Boulder, Colorado, and the Techstars Accelerator program, which is now a global program, started in Boulder. And Brad Feld is one of the founders, and the Denver Boulder startup community is a pretty tight community. So I got to know a lot of people here, and one of our advisors suggested that we go to Techstars and that at least that we apply. And I remember thinking, oh man, we're just like starting to see some really great growth and great revenue growth month over month. And, I feel like we know what we're doing now. I wonder how much an accelerator program will help. And it was definitely a probably ego-driven thought that I just had when that's what popped into my mind. But then we thought, well, goodness, if we actually did get accepted, how much more could we learn? We thought the product probably wasn't going to shift dramatically, but we knew our team could probably shift a lot and grow and optimize. And so we applied, and it turns out that the managing directors and the program director are all into meditation and mindfulness, more definitely from a more secular standpoint, which is totally fine. And they saw the opportunity, and they loved our team, and they realized that there wasn't enough. First of all, there's just not enough consumer brands in the Techstars ecosystem. It's very B2B for the most part. And so they liked that. And they also liked the just the potential of how large the opportunity could be. So yeah, we got accepted to the program. We were one of 11 companies that went in. I think they had over like 1,000 or 2,000 that applied. So we were pretty grateful for that. And from February to May of last year, we're in a grueling 13-week program, and ended up ending with, we didn't change that much in the business, but like I said, our team got a lot of insight on how to run more lean and agile, and just up-leveled how we did things around here. So came out of that program at the end of May, and it's been an awesome ride ever since.
And what would you say over the last couple of years? What's been your biggest surprise as you've made MeetMindful blossom, and you've had a pivot to some extent, yoga dates to MeetMindful? What's been the biggest surprise about user behavior or about just growing the business in general?
Well, I guess I have two different answers for that. If we're talking about biggest surprise with product and user behavior, it's interesting. We have more women than men. We have significantly more women than men, and it's actually much more cost effective for us to acquire women than it is to acquire men, which is a stark difference from the rest of the entire industry. Like, one of our advisors used to be the VP of marketing for Match Group, and he's consistently shocked by all of the data that we see. And we're like, okay, you said this is going to happen, and now this happened. And he's like, what? How? I don't get it. But that's the biggest surprise. And, it's not counterintuitive. I mean, of course, there's more women in this demographic and that kind of get into this lifestyle, but you would think we'd have an easier time acquiring men because it's a great place to meet amazing women. But
well, now the cat's out in the bag, right?
I know. Now you know
let the word get around.
But that's been the biggest surprise in terms of product and user behavior. And the other piece, in terms of just surprising, like running the company, this is going to be like deeper, okay, which you would expect from me. I am such a personal growth junkie, and I've been doing this stuff for about 10 years now. And, I'm constantly reading self-help books and meditating and mantras and intention setting and, all this stuff I do. And I never expected, and again, it makes sense when you look back on it, but I never expected to have the amount of personal growth that I've had from being a CEO of a startup, and the edge that it's constantly pushing me to go past, and the degree of, just discomfort that I deal with on a daily basis to grow into a more powerful, effective version of myself. And so just how I've grown as a leader has been really surprising for me. And, I'm grateful for it.
Congratulations. So far, so good. Looking forward to seeing great things from MeetMindful. Now, you've had a couple of raises. How were the raises? How tough was it to raise money? And I think we might have maybe we should check on those numbers. I'm not sure we've got one of our numbers correct. Are you able to tell us what you've raised recently?
Yeah, I'm happy to go through a little bit of that. So it was tough. Like, raising money in the beginning was tough, and I don't think that was a function of the industry per se, although that has its own degree of challenges, of course. But in the beginning, raising money for me was difficult just because I don't feel like I knew what the heck I was doing. I mean, I was just floundering about, which, for most first-time CEOs happens. And so the first time was just, I think, a lack of experience piece. Once we got into Techstars, this is the thing I think that most aspiring dating startup CEOs need to realize, at least this is based on my own experience. The moment we had metrics, it was a completely different story. And we got pretty obsessed with our metrics pretty fast. We were tracking every single event you could track and getting clear on our funnel and testing as much as we could. And so before, when I was pitching the idea, pre-metrics and pre-sales funnel clarity, the feedback was always, this sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a really cool opportunity, but I need to see, how your metrics shake out and what your CAC is and, LTV and all the stuff that we barely even were measuring at the time. And then we got our numbers guy on board, who's our VP of growth now. And we got serious about it. And that allowed us, we started monetizing early, which for better or for worse is what we did. And we were able to quickly start talking about our metrics in a way that actually made sense to investors. And so the moment we had that is when things got pretty interesting. We found an acquisition channel that worked really well for us. We created a ad unit that didn't even exist. We went to the largest content site in the mindfulness space, and we said, hey, our banner ad test didn't back out. What else can we do with you? And I wrote a blog post that went semi-viral with them through their network, and it had a text link to MeetMindful in the post. And I said, can we do a text link ad unit? And we ended up piloting this thing on like 5 or 10 different articles manually. And then they hired a developer to make a little, widget. They don't have a developing team really. And they made up this ad unit, and it became our most successful ad unit to date in terms of LTV to CAC. So in terms of ROI. And now it's their biggest ad unit that they sell on the entire site. So we got creative with how to get traction and track those digital campaigns pretty early on. And so back to the fundraising piece, coming out of Techstars, we had a third of our round closed, and we set out to raise a seed round. And it died down a little bit. I think I had closed. So my goal was to hit 1.25. And then I had some notes that were going to convert, and came out of the summer, and it died down towards the end of summer, and then picked up at the first of the year in 2017 and ended up closing it out actually in like 2 or 3 weeks, which is awesome. And so we closed with all the notes and stuff converting about almost 1.8 million. So, it's a small-ish seed round for this climate right now, but we're generating a lot of cash. And so we know what we need, and we're not trying to go that far above it.
Let's fast forward 1 year. We're into 2018. What's MeetMindful look like in a year's time? What's your goals and aspirations for it?
Yeah, so I'd say that's threefold. In the way that, at least in the States, when you think of what's the health grocery store, what's that big expensive healthy grocery store I can go to, it's Whole Foods, right? For us, our goal is to be that for dating. So the moment you want to find like the high quality, curated group of people that are into that healthy lifestyle, immediately MeetMindful. So we want that brand recognition. Like you said, fast forward 2018 across our demographic. So that means we're everywhere. We're everywhere that they go. So that's one. The second is we have had a lot of signs from our customers and from our user interviews and surveys that show that, we're seeing people use MeetMindful and desire to use MeetMindful for things other than dating. And without getting too deep into what that looks like, we are looking at and testing different ways that we can expand our offerings so people can, derive content or derive value from MeetMindful beyond just romantic connections. So that would be the second piece. What that expansion looks like is definitely still too early to tell, but I imagine we have that at least on a kind of what does V2 of MeetMindful look like, figured out and in market by 2018. And then the last piece is our impact piece. We really do consider ourselves an impact business, and one of our goals this year is to figure out how to scalably track our impact metrics. So for us, for eHarmony, that's marriages, right?
Yeah.
For Mindful, that's likely, and I say likely because we haven't, completed the project yet, but it's likely how many meetings are we facilitating? Because a lot of people will. Right. Yeah, people will meet someone on MeetMindful and they'll hang out in person, and okay, so they're not soulmates, but they made a new friend or they found somebody who's going to, teach them yoga or whatever. I mean, be a practitioner, whatever it may be. And that's valuable. And so it's valuable to their lives. It's valuable for us. So we want to figure out how to track that in a way that, like I said, is scalable, and then begin to really focus on increasing those impact metrics.
That's wonderful. Amy Baglan, you are the CEO and founder of MeetMindful. I love what you stand for. Wish you great success. Thank you so much for your time, taking the time with this OPW interview.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Mark.